Hello everyone, welcome back to America TV. My name is James, one of the e-guys here at America, and we welcome our audience members joining us online. We hope that you're doing well and staying safe. America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center, and our mission is to provide a space for young Indonesians to learn more about the United States. We have temporarily moved to a solely digital platform so that you guys can enjoy us from the comforts of your own home. For those of you who are joining us through Zoom, welcome. There are a couple of features that you can use to actively participate with us. You can leave your questions in the Q&A box section and use our chat box section to say hi to the panelists and other participants. In this episode, we'll be having how to write a statement of purpose or personal essay for U.S. universities. But before we begin, let's break the ice with a little game. I have here a question for all our audiences. Which Ivy League was the last to be established? And here I have several options. Princeton, Dartmouth, Cornell, and Brown. Stay tuned until the end of this program because we'll be giving a live shout out to whoever can answer correctly on our social media. Other than that, don't forget to take a selfie and tag our America's Instagram account. Now, without further ado, let me introduce everyone to today's moderator, Kak Vina Alaras, America's very own Education USA advisor. Kak Vina, the stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, James, for the opening. Hi, everyone. My name is Vina. I'm one of the advisors for Education USA based in America, although I am not currently in America, but I'm very jealous because Santika is. But I'm very happy tonight because this is like the event that I always look forward to every single month. Nggak bosen sama sekali ngasih presentasi yang sama. But I'm very happy that everyone who is already here. But I also want to say hi to everyone who is watching this session from our other platform, because not only here in Zoom, but we are also on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on YouTube, we are also on Instagram. So the presentation tonight will be somewhat long, but I guarantee you that you will learn a lot. So please take notes, but at the same time, if you have any questions, keep them coming wherever you guys are watching this session from, especially if you are in Zoom. You will get a chance to interact with Santika because Santika will help me basically interact with you guys in Zoom. All right, so if you guys are watching this from different platform and you guys want to join us here in Zoom, because I think it's getting crowded now, feel free to do that. You can go to Edamerica's website and then you can register there. Okay, and if this is not your first time, you will know what I'm gonna share with you in a second. That is a little bit of information about Education USA, just in case this is your first time. But if you've been here before, you can maybe, I don't know, grab a cup of coffee or tea, and then you can come back here because let's see, I think I'm going to give about like 10 minutes with this presentation. All right, so if this is for you, if this is your first time here with us with Education USA. Okay, so what is Education USA? So we are part of the U.S. Department of State Network, or here in Indonesia, we call it Kementerian Luar Negerinya Amerika Serikat. We have over 400 international student advising centers in more than 170 countries on top of America. So you can see here that we are basically everywhere, all over the world. So what we do as an advisor is that we assist everyone who wants to study higher education in the US. So bachelor's, master's, or PhD. Or here in Indonesia, we call it S1, S2, or S3. And the good news is that all of our services are free of charge. And I know it sounds too good to be true. It sounds too good to be true, but I guarantee you it is true. So in Indonesia, not only here in America, but we actually have 8 centers with a total of 10 advisors covering the whole country, right? So we have 2 in Jakarta, 1 at the US Embassy, and of course, the other center is in America with Santika and myself. And then we also have 2 in Surabaya, 1 at the US Consulate General, and 1 at Universitas Erlangga Unair. And then we also have 1 in Medan, also similar to in Surabaya. It's in the US Consulate there. And then we have 1 in Malang at Universitas Muhammadiyah, and 1 in Makassar at Universitas Fajar, and 1 in Banda Aceh at Universitas Islam Negeri Araniri. All right. If there is no Education USA Center exactly where you live, don't worry. You can reach out to the nearest one, or now that you are here with us with Education USA at America, feel free to reach out to us. So we provide you with 5 steps So we start with step one, which is research your options. So if you know that you want to study in the US, but you don't know where to start, let's have a chat. And talk about some of your options, right? As an international student, or maybe you already know the major, but you're still kind of like figure out the universities, or maybe you're still need some convincing why you should study in the US. We are so good at that. And then we can move on to step two after we are done with step one, which is financial studies, because that's equally important, right? Because there are a number of funding options for us, for international students. And then once we've also figured that out, we can move on to step three, which is completing your application, right? A lot of things going on here. And in fact, the event tonight is actually part of step three, because we are getting very technical, right? Writing essays or resume or CV, standardized tests like GRE or GMAT, and many more. And then once we are pretty much also done with that, you're going to submit your application, and then we're going to wait until the universities give you the result. And after that, we're going to, of course, applying for your student visa once you're ready to depart to the US, right? So we also guide you on the visa process. We're not going to apply the visa for you, but we're going to guide you the step by step for that. And last but not least, we have prepare for your departure. This is part of our annual event. We are not having one this year, but we are planning to have one since the US Embassy is already open now. That's such a good news. So please stay tuned if you also want to kind of like join these events, because of course, all of our events here in Education USA always open for public. So yes, step 5 is mainly for students who already get accepted and then they're about to depart to the US. But even though you're not departing this year, but you want to know more about, like what is the classroom experience looks like, how to maintain a student visa, and so on, you can definitely join this event. Okay. So meet with us. My name is Vina. If this is your first time, and then we have Santika somewhere in chat in Zoom going to interact with you guys. Since the pandemic, we are basically always available for advising session. Only that before we do it in person in America in Pacific Place in Jakarta, but this time we are going fully digital. So also the good news is that we available every day. So from Sunday through Saturday, and just similar to when we were in America, our operating hours start from 1 until 9 p.m. All right. So you can do basically just do a one-on-one advising with one of us. The advising system is first come, first serve. So technically, you don't have to make an appointment because sometimes people come to us and they said, "Hey, Vina, can I see you on Friday at 7, for example?" As long as the room is open, yes, we can definitely meet in Zoom. But if there is a session going on, I will leave you a message, right? So it's first come, first serve. You can basically just come in. If there's a session going on, you will be put in the waiting room, okay? And this is our Zoom ID, by the way. Santika will be able to give you the link so that you can save it on your phone or on your laptop. So the next time you want to come in, you can basically just click through that link, all right? Or you can email us first if you don't feel like just, coming into Zoom. You can email us first in our email center at jakarta.atamerica@educationusa.org. You can introduce yourself if you want, or maybe if you have, like a quick question, feel free to reach out to us via email. All right. So I would like to give you a glimpse of our upcoming events. Tonight is our last event for November. But we are actually ready for December already. So on December 10th, we are going to have another building strong CVs and resumes and letters of recommendation. In fact, I actually just gave this one last week, but the CV event and the essay event like we're going to have tonight are part of our monthly event. So we're going to have it every single month. So you can basically choose. If you missed one of our events, you can either watch the recorded video on YouTube, or you can wait until the next one, because for me personally, I prefer to join a live event compared to just like watching the recorded one, but it's up to you. Okay. And then tonight we're having a session about how to write a statement of purpose, but we are already prepared for the next events as well. Same topic, same presentation, but different style of me presenting it. So we're going to have the next one on December 17th. So yeah, I look forward to to that already. And the last event in December before we close the year of 2020 is when Santika and I were going to basically have a like fun time discussing things with you, no presentation. Basically, you can ask us anything related to studying in the US, or maybe you kind of like wondered, like what is this that Education USA at America can help me with. So you can join this event on December 19th. It's on a Saturday morning. All right. I believe this is the last slide of my presentation. And oh wait, one more. If you want to register for this event, you can definitely go to EdAmerica's website already. You can register there already for the Zoom, or you can go to Education USA, the official Education USA, which is educationusa.state.gov. All right. Okay, I'm very excited. Again, just giving you a heads up, I will basically going to talk for about an hour and 10-15 minutes. I know this is a lot, but I guarantee you all my presentation will be very informative, especially if you have not attended one, or you still don't know what is it about US essay writing that is just like different and somewhat difficult. All right, so tonight we are talking about statement of purpose or essay in general for US universities. Okay, so let's start with this question, like, why the US admission essay is really that important? Why is it so important to the point that I would give this presentation every single month? Basically, I use the same slides, but I love presenting it because just to tell you that US essay US essays are really, really important to the US admission. So you don't want to underestimate this one requirement. Okay, I know that you have to take GRE, I know you have to take TOEFL, I know you have to have like a good resume or CV, but this is actually really, really important, right? So each school is going to require at some point an essay, a statement of purpose or personal essay. What do you want to do? Because we never recommend anyone who wants to study in the US only to pick one campus. We actually always suggest you to pick 3, 4, 5. There is no limit basically. But if you actually have more than one universities in the US that you want to apply to, you can check if any of the prompts or the question from each school overlap or pretty much like similar, because most likely they will. And if that's the case, the good news is that you can actually create one great essay rather than 3, 4 different essays, depending on how many universities that you apply, right? Because writing one essay is already, challenging. Now, the good news is you just need to focus on one essay, and then we can actually use it to multiple universities, okay? So are these the same essays? I use, like the term statement of purpose, essay. How about personal essay, personal statement? How about motivation statement? How about motivation letter? There's so many different terms. Are they the same essays? So let's take a look at it. Statement of purpose or SOP, just like what it's called, it's about you making a statement of your purpose. As simple as that. Think about it. It's about you making a statement of your purpose of studying in the US, right? Purpose of applying to graduate schools, purpose of you choose specific majors, right? Personal statement or essay, pretty similar to what it's called. It's about you making a statement, or it's about you making an essay about your personal story, about you, about yourself, right? And these are the two very common terms in the US, but then we also have one called motivation letter, which, by the way, is actually not the term that is being used in the US. I know one university that called the essay motivation statement, but motivation letter, in fact, I think I still have one random advisee the other day and asked me to, Fina, can you take a look at my motivation letter? Whenever you say that, I just knew right away that you guys are also applying for European countries, because motivation letter is a term that is being used in European countries. So I like it if you call it statement of purpose if you want to study in the US. So yeah. So what makes the US admission essay important and different? So we mentioned about motivation letter, right? So probably at this point you're thinking essay is an essays, right? So wherever I go, even, if in Asia or maybe like Indonesia or like Europe, or even the US, when I want to apply to the universities, they're going to require an essay, and basically they're the same, right? If they're the same, I'm not going to have these events every single month, right? It is so different. That's why I give this presentation every single month. So what makes them really important and different to the point that I give this every single month? So, and this is going to go even deeper as my presentation goes. So that's why, like, if you receive an email from us, like, we have like one line in the email that says, please, if you can, please come on time, because if you come in like in the middle of my presentation, you will kind of like lost a little bit. So thank you so much for anyone who is watching this right now, or you guys already came here early. Okay, so let's see. Writing the admission essay, it can be very challenging because it's not as simple as writing your autobiography. So that's basically your answer. Now you know that when you write an essay in the to the US, to US universities, you are not simply just write about like your autobiography, right? I will tell you like what it means, but you are writing a story on what sets you apart from the other applicants and very clearly states your goal. So please take a moment in this part, right? You have to think about how to write an essay that nobody else can write. So think about some hundreds, if not thousands, of applicants out there, and you have to write an essay that no one can actually write the same thing. Okay. The U.S. admission essay, they really the admissions committee, the people who are going to write your essay, they really viewed this requirement from you as something personal. It's something personal for them because they literally want to know who you are as a person, on top of all the information that you give when you submit your application, on top of your GRE, on top of your GPA, on top of your resume or CV. They really want to know who you are, okay? And they really read it. All right. So the admissions committee, they want to get to know you beyond the professional and academic achievement, basically what I just said. So if you're thinking like right now, oh, I thought, like it's as easy as, hi, my name is Fina. I graduated from, maybe you're thinking that right now, right? Because you're thinking, because they want to know me, right? Here, I'm telling them who am I? Like, my name is Fina, I graduated. But no, that's not what we're going to write at all. Why? If you think about it, they already know who you are in terms of like your name, in terms of like where did you graduate from, in terms of like where did you work prior to applying to this university, right? But they completely want to know something new from you. They do not want to ask duplicate information, okay? And that's basically what the essays to other countries are about, right? It's about you kind of like summarizing all of the documents, okay? And that's definitely not what the U.S. Essays are about. So think about it. The essay, now that you know that the admissions committee, they really want to get to know you very personal, the essay is the only document, apart from all of the other information that you already give in the other documents, where you can do that, where you can actually tell them something that they couldn't find in the other document, where you can kind of like tell them, I want to apply to your campus because of this and that, this and that. All right. So it is all about fit, because like when you write an essay, right, and then you submit it, it's all about fit because most applicants, they have good grades and scores. And I want to spend a little bit here because this is what happens a lot here in Indonesia, or maybe like part of the culture here in Asia, where when you want to go higher in your education, all you think about is your grades, is your academic achievements, right? It is the case if you want to study outside the U.S., right? If you want to study in Europe or like elsewhere in Asia, practically the university will want to pay attention to your grades. And then maybe you're also thinking that the US is also doing that. Yes, they're going to take a look at your grades, but it's not everything. And I can tell you right now just how many Indonesians with almost perfect scores on their GPA that they still don't get accepted. So what's up with that? That's because the word here, the term here that I want you to start familiar yourself with is holistic, right? Holistic means that they're not just take a look at your grades, because let's say you have like 3.9 GPA, but then you can't really tell them like a really good story on what is your purpose in applying to their campus, you kind of like lose a point there. And then it's kind of like defeat the whole thing. They may not, they may not really just focus on your grades, but they want to know you as a whole. All right. And a good essay and story will make a huge difference. Why? Because, and you will realize this, right? Like when you come to me or when you come to Santika, we never actually, not that we never ask about your GPA. Why? Because what's the point? What's the point of me asking your GPA? And let's say you have like a 3.1 GPA, and then I would say what? Like, sorry, you can't apply to US universities because you have 3.1 GPA. Go back to, do your S1 again and then get a good grade. I'm not gonna do that, right? But I only want to, we only help you on something that we have control over. So like your GRE, for example, right? You definitely want to prepare that before you take the test. More practice, the more you practice, the more you can get like good grades, right? Your resume or CV, if you want to kind of make it so much better, maybe you want to take another year while you're building your CV and or resume even stronger. But essay is definitely something that if you write it today, and let's say the deadline is not until next year, during that time in between, we can come back and forth, and then we can make it better every time, right? So because again, like a good essay, because we want to end up with a really good essay, because that will make a huge difference. Okay, so that's basically kind of like the introduction. I hope that by now you get it, you understand better about, oh, okay, yeah, now I get it, like why is it so important, right? Now let's talk about the essay itself. Okay, we're going to go a bit technical here. So there are different type of questions. So statement of purpose, the very common one, usually it consists of 1 to 2 pages, single space, or one and a half lines. It's about like 500 to 1,000 words of an essay about yourself, about professional goals, about why you want to apply to this specific program, right? So it's about 500 to 1,000 words, right? There's also a type of essays where it's more focused questions. So they're asking you 3, 4, or 2 to 3 different essays, and each questions, 2 to 3 different questions, and each questions consists of no more than 250 words, or not more than 300 words. It depends on the university. And the last type of questions is unique questions, especially if you want to apply for MBA, for example. We often see this, right? It can be variety of number of words, or maybe it's not just essay. They're asking you like, some random questions. What we are covering tonight is the general statement of purpose, because this is like what we see the most when we see our advisees. So we're talking about 500 to 1,000 words type of essay, or what we call just a statement of purpose or personal statement, or just an essay, depending on what the university is asking, right? So if you happen to have let's see, if you happen to have the number 2, the more focused questions, this is interesting because yes, they are asking 3 different questions, but actually the 3 different questions that they ask, if you compile it into one essays, they are going to be an essay that I'm going to discuss tonight. So I'm going to give you like the structure of how you are going to make a good statement of purpose. It's just that more focused questions is, they kind of like want to break each questions to separate essays. Okay, so the idea here, the ending goal here, if you have more focused questions type of questions, it's still helpful if you're watching this session. Okay, so before we start writing, I want to remind you that you definitely want to know your audience first. Okay, so basically guys, this presentation is years in the making, right? I don't make this presentation overnight, and in fact, I still, like, keep adding new information as time goes on. This slide, exactly, this specific slide, know your audience first, is really important. And I remember one of the reasons why I put this up is because oftentimes when I read your draft or people's draft in the past, people tend to not realizing it that when you say something in the essay, people in America, people in the US may not understand what you're saying, right? So the interesting part about you having Santika or myself reviewing your essay is because when I read it, when we read your essay, we are going to be in two modes. One, as someone who doesn't know anything about Indonesia, and the other part is someone or myself who is an Indonesian. So I can give you like two different perspectives here. Okay, so you want to know your audience first. Who will read your essay? Because again, like when we start writing it, we tend to forget that you're actually going to give this to someone whom, let's assume that they don't know anything about our country, right? So who's going to read your essays is basically going to be the members of the admissions committee, who are typically faculty members teaching in your respective program. So here's the thing: if you're applying for masters and or PhD, I want to give you a little bit of background about the fact that each department in one universities, they are very decentralized. So let's say we're talking about I don't know, NYU, for example, and then you want to apply to the Department of Law, and then you also have a friend who also wants to apply to NYU at schools of engineering, right? So those two different departments, they have like their own admissions committee, right? So if you want to apply for law school, your essay will automatically go to the Department of Law, and no one at the Department of Engineering will know about this essay of yours, right? And vice versa. So basically, the members of the admissions committee, they are the expert of that specific program, but they are not the expert of when we are telling the story here in Indonesia, or whatever case that we want to put in the essay, right? So hopefully that this is something new for you. That yeah, the admissions committee, it depends on the department that you want to apply to. Okay. And what are they looking for again? They're looking for a story, but then hold on, because at probably at this point you're still thinking a story means a story about myself, like, hi, my name is Vina, I graduated from university, blah blah blah, I currently work in America and stuff, but not that kind of story. And this is, like when things get actually more interesting. So yes, we can mix the essay where you can tell about like a mental picture of who you are as a person, as it relates to your fit for, so it's kind of like a mix about yourself to whatever program that you want to do in the US. Okay. But mostly about like, what do you want to do in the future? Okay. So what makes the essays also different, like US essay and other countries' essays, is because the other countries' type of essays is basically kind of like everything that already happened in the past, to the point where I don't understand why you need to have someone to take a look at it, because it's a story about your life. It's like a narrative story about a timeline and narrative story about yourself. Like, maybe you can start with like, my name is, and you graduated from, and then, like, after you graduate, you do an intern, and then you work here, and so on and so on, right? To the point like where if you bring that type of essay for me to check, which part do you want me to change? Because that already happened, right? So in a way, you can actually write that kind of essay even like a day before the deadline, right? And I actually know some people who did that, but you definitely do not want to do that for US essays, right? Because in the US essays, you actually want to focus on everything that you want to do in the future. And that what makes it actually really challenging, because we're not thinking about that at all before when it comes to US essay, right? So, but now right? Before I move on a little bit, I just want to give you like this one slide, which I always love. It's supposed to be like, I think It's supposed to be kind of like a secret because the admissions committee rarely tell us about this, but I'm just gonna share it with you guys, right? Did you know that the admissions committee, they may read only part of the essay, part of your essay. So there are two different type of people who would react to this fact. The first one is, oh, okay, so they're not gonna read the whole essay that I make. So I don't have to make like a really good essay, right? If knowing that they're not going to read the whole thing. And then the other type of people will say, oh, but I want them to read the whole story of my the whole story in my essay. So which one are you? Which one are you here? Hopefully you are the second one, because yes, the goal here, the fact that you are now watching the session, the goal here is how to make them read your essay from the beginning to end. All right. And then something that I want to keep reminding you is that as we go on with my next few slides, you're going to feel very frustrated. You're going to feel very scared almost, because you will find that, oh my God, it's actually really hard. But I want to keep telling you that that's why we are here for. That's why Education USA here. And that's why Santika and I are here, because we're going to guide you every step of the way on your essay. And we like to start with this session, right? So I want you to think about this. I want you to like really grasp this slide. The goal here is we want to make them read your essay from the beginning to end, okay? And how can you do that? By making a one-of-a-kind introduction paragraph. Because when you're writing an essay, it's pretty like similar to when you are picking up a book or like a novel, right? If you're a reader. You're going to kind of like read like for the first few pages, for example. And then if you like what you're reading, you're going to keep reading it, right? But if you don't like, the introduction, you're going to maybe put it back, or maybe you're just kind of like not going to read it again. This is actually pretty similar when it comes to essay. So that's why one-of-a-kind introduction paragraph is really, really important because it's kind of like when after they're done with reading your introduction paragraph, because think about it, right? Like they're sitting down, they are, okay, it's at the beginning of the day, I'm going to read, let's say 50 applications today, right? So they have to do it very quickly, right? So if the introduction paragraph is already so boring, like you start with like my name is, so okay, so they're sitting down, then they have, okay, so I got my application here, so we got Fina here from Indonesia, graduated from this one, and then I'm looking at your resume and everything. And then when it comes to like reading my essay, it starts with my name is Fina, I graduated from. And for them it will be like, I already know this. Like I just, come on, like be quick. Like I want to know like what is it about your story that you want to tell me, right? So they want some convincing, right? Why you pick the university, why you're choosing this specific paragraph, specific program, I'm sorry. So that's why we want to put that in the introduction paragraph, not the whole thing. It's kind of like a teaser. I'm going to talk more about it, right? So introduction paragraph is kind of like a teaser, but it has to be like really interesting. And not only you want to make a one-of-a-kind introduction paragraph, but at the end of the day, you also want to write an essay that no other applicant can write. So if you are right now watching, maybe not like with your friends, but you're kind of like, texting each other, hey, like let's watch the session. And then you guys are actually applying for the same program, let's say MBA, and then you're applying to the same universities. That person is going to be your competitor, because you want to make sure that your essay is not going to be the same with your friend's essay, right? And then it's really interesting because like the other, I think a couple of months ago, we got someone after this presentation is saying, hey, Fina, so if you're expecting that no other people can write the same essay with this presentation of yours, isn't it like we'll make us writing the same thing because we are hearing your presentations and everything? And I actually kind of like, I found that really interesting because I never thought that way. But what I can share with you, I have read, I mean, I don't know, I didn't keep the numbers on how many advisees that I have read their essay. But I mean, I've read a lot of MBA essays, and I'm telling you guys, your story, your purpose, it's always different. The structure of the essays, the structure of the essay is the same, but the exact story that people present in their essay, I have never had people who are actually write the same thing from one person to another. Never, never. And I've been here for like almost like 5 years now, so it's never been the case. Okay, so now you want to think about write an essay that no other people can write. Not only people here in Indonesia, but think also about people outside Indonesia who are also applying. Okay, but the thing is here, I know you will be like, oh my god, how am I going to do that, right? But the thing is here, you don't want to try so hard to be different, right? Just be genuine and just be original. Just as long as you already know what do you want to do, trust me, you'll be able to write the essay. I know at some point, maybe right at this point, because let's say you have not started writing your essay, you have never thought about why is it that you're picking this major. I mean, you have never thought about like putting it into a paper, right? And maybe you don't know how to do it exactly, but I know for sure, I know that you already know in your mind for some reason, at some point, that I want to actually study in the US for this specific program because of this and that, and let us help you in putting that into a paper, into an essay, right? And that's why also that you're watching this session. Okay. And I know by this time you'll be like, oh my God, Fina, like this is so hard. I don't know if I can do it. Okay, now that you said that you have helped, a lot of, advisees of yours, and they're all, like they are in the US, not all, but I mean, majority of them, right? So Fina, can I see samples of essays from others? So I like this. I like this one, because I got these questions a lot in the past. So now the thing is like, do I have all of my advisees essay with me? Yes. Can I share it with you? Well, if the advisees are okay with that, which in the past I did ask some of them and they said it's okay, technically I can share it with you. But here's the interesting part. Do I want to do that? Do I want to share sample of essays from my past advisees to you? The answer is no. I'm sorry, it's no, but I have a good reason why. First, because it's not necessary, and trust me, I did this. I told you earlier, right? Like this presentation is years in the making, and I still learn so much. And in the past, I did actually share some of my advisees essay to my current advisees at the time. And what I found is actually really interesting, because not only just one, but like a number of other advisees of mine, where I shared some other people's essay, it kind of like put them into pressures to the point where when you wrote the draft, it's somewhat similar. And I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all, because remember when I told you, right? Like almost all of my advisees in the past, even like until now, even though they are applying for the same program, they are watching the same session of this essay, they never have like a particular similar story in the essay. And when I did share it with them a couple of years ago, they kind of like duplicate the essay, right? And I totally understand why, because like when I shared this essay and then I told them, yeah, this advisee actually got accepted to this university, and they would be like, oh wow, it's like a very hard university to get into. And so because you're thinking, oh, if this kind of essay, the university accept this person with this kind of essay, how about like me just like like kind of like writing the same thing, because I also want to get into that university, and I don't like that at all. That's why on my like the previous slide, I told you that just be original, just be you. Just as long as you have your own story, watch this session and then make an appointment to see either Santika or myself. You are gonna have like a really good essays of your own. Okay, so you don't. At the end of the day, you don't want to compare it. Also, there are some people that told me that, hey, Vinaya, the other day, I went to like this one website or like a book where they compile, like successful essay, and I just do not know how I can write like that. And then I asked them, who are the writers for those type of essays, and they said, oh, they're Americans. Well, of course, Americans, English is their first language. Of course, they are able to write like such beautiful words. But then again, that's like what happens when you compare. So before you even start writing, knowing that, that it is actually really hard and you won't be able to write like that. You'll feel like so under pressure. So don't do any of that. You will thank me. Don't do any of that. If you have like your senior or your friends already in the US, do not ask for their essays. Okay, just simply attend the session and come to us. You will be able to write like a really strong essay of yours. Okay. But then at this point, I also want to remind you that you are writing a story. You are not writing an academic paper, because at this point, I'm pretty sure you're thinking about, okay, what am I going to write? I need to like, have like, because Fina said that I need to be able to write something that no other people can write. Because sometimes people kind of like sounds, because you're kind of like very uptight at this point, thinking about like how hard it is to write an essay. Some people kind of like, end up with an essay that's looks so much like an academic paper, but that's not what I want. I want you to remember that. You remember when I told you that writing an essay for the admissions committee, reading an essay is kind of like pretty similar to like when you're picking up a book or like a novel. So it's kind of like a story with some facts and data here and there, but also kind of like light, something that people will find it really interesting to read more on your next paragraph. Okay? So now we're getting even more technical, all right? So how can you do that? First thing first, if you are still overwhelmed at this point, like, I don't know what to write, you can create a, not that you can create, you have to create a topic or a theme and stick to one. Stick to one, right? Create a topic or theme of the essay before writing it, and then very clearly know your goals. So if you're the type of persons who you like to just kind of like sitting down and then think about it and then you start writing right away, then do that. But if you are the type of person where you just need to have like the outlines first, definitely do that as well. But please choose a topic, right? So let's say you want to study aerospace engineering, right? Find one topic on what do you want to talk about in the essay, right? And then I'm going to tell you actually how to do that and what kind of topic should you choose, right? If you don't kind of like still don't really understand like what I mean by choosing like the topic or theme, ask these questions. And I think these are like really good questions that you definitely want to take notes on this. I don't know, like take a picture or whatever. Ask some of these questions, or if not all. Who am I trying to help? So let's go back with the aerospace engineering case, right? Who am I trying to help? And then you're thinking, well, it's not like necessarily like I'm trying to help someone or I'm trying to help people because it's aerospace engineering. You're talking about like, like machines and all that, right? Okay, let's move on. If it's not the who, what about if it's like a what? What am I trying to help? And then so maybe you start thinking, right? Oh, well, I want to really help the what do you call like that kind of industry where you deal with like this kind of aerospace thing. I don't know why I choose that. I mean, I'm not like a science person, but I don't know, it just came up my mind because I have like a number of advisees that want to study aerospace engineering. But yeah, think about like, oh, okay, yeah, what am I trying to help? Yeah, I want to kind of like make this industry in Indonesia so much better because we have so many potential. It's just that we currently don't have any like experts in this, right? Good, we're getting somewhere, right? And then ask another one. What is my mission here? So what is it that you want to do? Why? Okay, so you want to fix this problem, or you want to kind of like introduce this idea of yours on whatever it is in Indonesia or wherever. But like, what is the ending goal here? What do you have? Why does it have to be you? Why you? Right? So start asking yourself that. Okay. And well, basically that will be your topic. There you go. That will be your topic, right? So let's say another example, right? Like you want to study environmental law, and then the reasons why you want to do that is because Indonesia currently like plays a huge role in with climate change, right? And you want to fix that, right? So then you want to kind of like pick like what is it exactly in the environmental aspect in Indonesia that you want to choose on. Maybe you want to kind of like think about like, oh yeah, I want to like make like helping the government making like this law or something, because and then I will ask you why, and then you say, oh yeah, no, because currently we don't really have a lot of experts in this specific aspect of law, environmental law, and then I want it to be me, you know. So another thing that I like to tell my advisors is that don't sell yourself short, because that's something that a lot of us here in Indonesia do. You want to be very bold, right? I mean, you even think about like studying in the US, it's already like a really huge deal, right? Because you want to fix something, or you want to introduce something, and that's why you're thinking about the US, because you already know that there's universities and that university will help you get there. So we just want that thought and that story to be delivered in the essay. Okay, so the larger the scale of the problem, and again guys, it's not like always have to be a problem, it can also be an idea, right? The larger the scale of those that you would like to focus on in the future. Let's see here, by now we're not talking about like anything in the past, we're just going forward, we're just going like 3 to 5 to 10 to 25 years in the future. So the larger the scale of those, so for example like the whole country, or maybe like even like Asia as a continent, the better, right? But it doesn't have to be always like that. You can actually go as small as your own community, or maybe you're coming from an area somewhere in Indonesia, and you just want to focus about like that community. That's totally fine as well. Okay, now there are two ways of writing a memorable introduction paragraph. So right now, hopefully, or if it's not yet, that's fine as well. You have not thought about, like, who am I trying to help, or what am I trying to do here and everything. But once you find your topic or your theme, there are two ways of writing a memorable introduction paragraph, because let's not forget, you want to make a one of a kind introduction paragraph, right? The first one is a personal story about yourself. This is going to be like somewhat challenging or just a bit tricky, because not all of us has memorable or different type of personal story, but I just want to share it with you, just in case you do have a really interesting personal story. You can actually do that, and you can actually put it in the introduction paragraph, right? But so let's see, a personal story about yourself, basically that's what we're going to put in the essay. And then I know you're at this point are saying, wait, Fina, I thought you were saying that we're not going to talk about ourselves that way, like my name is Fina and I graduated. No, that's not that kind of story, but it's like story like that is like what makes you really different as a person, right? Something that makes you stand out and sets you apart from other applicants. So for example, if you have unusual experiences growing up, or you are a member of an underrepresented population, or as simply as if you're not coming from the big cities like here in Jakarta, right? Because I actually have a number of advisors coming like from different area across Indonesia, and I just love reading about your story, and that's definitely something that you can actually put it in the essay. So for example, I'm currently working on the essays from a number of LPDP BIT awardees. I don't know if any of you guys are watching this session. If yes, please say hi to us. I would like to see you if you guys are watching this. But I love the stories when it comes from LPDP BIT awardee. So BIT is, like all those awardees coming from the eastern part of Indonesia, because it's a rare thing for me, and of course for the admissions committee as well, to actually get an applicant that is not coming from like big city like Jakarta, right? But it's like, a story about like this area that is like so beautiful, but not a lot of people actually pay attention to this area. So that kind of story, okay? And I'm going to give you a sample of what it looks like. So let's read it together. This is an example of a personal approach type of introduction paragraph. The passing of my mother and grandmother from breast cancer when I was 15 years old opened my eyes to a new perspective on life. I became intensely interested in scientific research with aspirations to better understand and possibly find a cure for cancer. Without me knowing these advices, when I read this kind of essay in the introduction paragraph, this person is better talk about, or this person must be interested in applying in either medical or like public health, right? Because if you have this kind of personal story, but then you want to end up applying for a chemical engineering, like what? Like what is that? It's not like connected, right? So if you have like a really unusual experience that you can actually connect to what you want to do in the future with your master's or PhD, then you put it. So that's why this specific approach is not for everyone, because sometimes when I told this to people, they would be like, but Fina, I don't have like this kind of interesting, unusual experiences growing up. Then that's fine as well. That's totally fine. So let's take an example of one of my advisees who already now got accepted to one of the universities. And if you remember, if you attend one of our events, her name is Tiara, and she wants to apply to MPAID at Harvard Kennedy School. She has like one of the best personal approach type of introduction paragraph, type of essays, because it's relatable to what she wants to do now and what she wants to do at Harvard and what she wants to do in the future. That is, she grew up in. She said that she's privileged to live in a mega city as Jakarta, but then she at the same time she actually grew up next to the slum or like the kampung, right? And then growing up, of course, like she hang out with them, not understanding that they are economically different, right? And then as she grew up, she realized that, whoa, I'm very privileged, and my friends whom I used to hang out with are not. And so that's like what makes him actually wants to. I want to fix the economy of Indonesia. I want to kind of like fix the poverty and everything. And so she kind of like used that story, and I think she also has like a personal story about like her father as well, or something like that. So that kind of stories that we can actually put it here, of the personal approach, right? But don't worry if you don't have one, because we can choose the second option, which is we can just dive into the problem. And this is like the majority of my advisees do when it comes to the essay. Just dive into the problems, because it's actually equally interesting, right? If you have like unusual experiences type of you want to use the personal approach in your essay, the story has to be really interesting, right? But if you don't have that, you can actually choose this, which I believe that can also be very interesting, especially if the case is in Indonesia. Why? Because we are not coming from countries where they already have like tons of students in the US. So we're not talking about like China or like India or like Saudi or like Brazil, like South Korea, like Vietnam's. Those are basically the countries that I'm really jealous on, actually, because they have like so many international students there. But Indonesia, we are currently have about like 9,000 Indonesians currently in the US. I know for some of us it's like a lot, but it's actually not a lot at all, considering that we are actually the fourth most populous country, and we are actually what, like ranking 20 now, as the country that has the most international students in the US. I don't like that fact at all. I want us to actually go all the way to like top 5 at least, right? So, but at the same time, use this situation as your opportunity. The fact that there are actually not a lot of Indonesians, this is your time to be very different. And I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure the admissions committee, like, so let's say 50 applicants, right? They're sitting down and they're about to read your application, about like 50 applications, right? Let's say maybe like 40 of those applications come from like China and India and those countries that I told you. And then we have about like 5 or like 7 or like 10 from Indonesia. They would be like, that's interesting, something new to read about. And that's why you're watching this session, and that's why we want to make like a really interesting essay, because like let's assume that, oh, Indonesia, interesting. And then not only that, when they read your essay, it's even like more interesting, right? So diving into the problem is actually, or issue or idea that you would like to tackle, fix, or start is actually also another good idea, right? So I'm going to give you a number of examples. These are actually from my advices. I know that I told you earlier that I'm not sharing any of my advisors' essay, but this is just like a glimpse of what they have on their introduction paragraph, right? Indonesia, an emerging economy country, is predicted to be one of the top 5 largest economies in the world by 2050, according to PwC report. Let's stop there. Let's stop there. If you're currently reading this, let's stop there. Just like this one sentence. I want to talk a little bit about that. As someone who, let's say, doesn't know anything about Indonesia, reading this type of statement, what do you think they will feel? For me, when I have like my I don't know anything but Indonesia mode, when I read this, I'll be like, interesting. Is Indonesia a country that I don't really like hear often? It is an emerging economy country, but it is predicted to be one of the top 5 largest economies. Top 5 largest is actually a lot. And then it's going to happen in 2050. Okay, good. I want to know more about this. And then the person goes, Indonesia also shows success in cutting the poverty rate of its total population to an amount of under 10%. Another good news. I would love to hear that they are cutting the poverty rate, right? And then this is like when things got interesting, right? Because the person who wrote this actually dropped the bomb. However, this is the argument, right? The World Bank claims that socio-economic inequality in Indonesia is widening, eventuating in the situation where the result of its economic growth has only been enjoyed by the richest 20% of its society. That's the kind of introduction paragraph where, so let's say like the person, I don't like the person doesn't actually stop here, but then the next sentence is actually getting even more interesting. But I just want to give you a glimpse of it, right? If you, let's say you're not Indonesian, right? If you read this kind of essays, do you want to read it more? I do. I actually really do, right? I actually want to know where this is end up, right? Knowing that, why is this person writing this? What is his like or her plan to study in my campus? And then that's like when we build like a really amazing structure in the essay, convincing them that, hey, I want to be the one who's changing the situation. And it has to be this specific major and it has to be in your specific campus, right? But let's stay here in the introduction first. So this is one example. Let's see another one. As one of the Indonesia's founding fathers, Muhammad Hatta, had once said, Indonesia will not shine because of the torch in Jakarta, capital city, but Indonesia will glow because of the candles in the village. Let's stop there. By the way, guys, I want to tell you right now, do not use cliche quotes, right? But I give this specific advices like just like different, because this is not like a cliche quote, right? Do you see this like did you ever hear this? Like I have not. And I found it as an Indonesian, I found this quote is just like really beautiful. And I remember when I first reading this, and I remember like I told her in the beginning, do not put any quotes. And then, but she just used quotes. But then with this specific quotes, and I remember I smiled when I read this, and I just said to her like, I love it. And because I just love these quotes, right? So that's a quote to open the essay. And then again, without me reading the whole essay, I can already guess that this person might going to talk something about like agriculture, because she mentioned about like, like village, and like the next sentence is talking about like small farmers and everything like that. And because like this person's actually I forgot like exactly the program, but something about like agriculture and technology, because she wants to adopt that to Indonesia, because Indonesia is like one of like the largest agriculture, what do you call that, like the term, like the largest one in the world. But then we like, it's going to be so much better if you can adapt the technology of it. And then that's why she wants to study in the US for that. So Indonesia's food security relies on small farmers, which accounts for 90% of all Indonesian farmers. She presents like a really interesting fact here to the reader. Do I want to keep reading? Of course. And then it's getting even more interesting because she started to compare it with the US, the country that she wants to study. So unlike US farmers who averagely owns 169 hectares per farmers, Indonesian farmers only hold less than 1 hectare averagely. Amazing. I just love this. And then She already got accepted, by the way. And I wasn't like surprised when she told me that she got accepted to, like her dream university, because this is just like a really amazing story, right? Let's see another one. I think this is like, yeah. It has been almost 2 years since the president of the Republic of Indonesia officially launched Making Indonesia 4.0, a roadmap planned by the government to reach the goal of being in the top 10 world's most economically developed country by 2030. So this is pretty similar to like the first sample, the first essay. But yeah, another interesting fact for, let's assume, the reader that has nothing to like know nothing about Indonesia, right? And then pretty similar to like the first one, right? The person drops a bomb. Start with the argument. Unfortunately, there is still a deficiency of data specialists in Indonesia. So here, this is like a really good examples of, yes, the structure on how each of you will write the essays are basically the same, but do you see what I'm saying here? The exact story is different, right? The exact story is different. So the other person is talking about like, like the how, like the wealthy will keep, and I forgot like what majors that this person ends up with, but like this one is very clear, like, right, there is still a deficiency of data specialists. So this person must, interested in studying something about like data science or something like that. Okay, so those are the three samples. Hopefully you get kind of like a better idea of like what kind of memorable, one of a kind introduction paragraph I'm talking about here. And if you have like a hard time building one, again, that's what we are here for. But at least by watching this session, and then after this, we are hoping that you set up a time with either Santika or myself to work on the essay. Okay. So the tips for writing the introduction paragraph. Again, this is something that I shared with you verbally, but we want to assume that the reader knows nothing about the topic you write about in the essay. The readers are basically going to be the expert for like the topic in general, right? So if you, again, like if you want to study environmental law, so they're basically the expert of everything that is related to environment and law, right? But the reader may not know anything about like the situation here in Indonesia. So this is kind of like going back to my first few slides when I said you have to know the reader, right? And this is, I'm going back to this slide again here, right? So you want to give a glimpse about Indonesia. Let's assume that, again, because Indonesia is not like a country like everyone, like that other people know about, like some popular country like China, India, and all of that. So let's assume that they don't know a lot about Indonesia. So that's why we want to give a glimpse about it and a teaser about it in the introduction paragraph before we explain more in depth in the next paragraphs, right? So we want to give like all the information in the introduction paragraph on like how urgent, how serious, how great the situation is, because you want to, like you have like this idea, because again, like I told you, it doesn't always have to be like problem, or how great the plan is, right? And then you also want to be specific, and it's in the why and how. And when I read your essay, you will realize that I keep asking you the why, because sometimes, if not oftentimes, if not all the time, a lot of us just like write something that is in the surface. And this is something that happens a lot with my advisees. Like you're making a statement, but it's just like a general statement, like nothing new in that. And then I keep asking you why. So for example, like you say the ending goal here is that I would like to have the economy of Indonesia. For me, that's like so broad. But then I would also like to I want to ask you also the why do you want to have the economy of Indonesia? Oh, because whatever, right? And then I will also ask you, how exactly would you have the economy of Indonesia? And those type of answers are the one that you want to put in the essay, instead of like just saying something that is general, something that doesn't really mean anything, something that you don't elaborate on. We don't want that. We just want to kind of like go deeper to like why you want to have the economy of Indonesia specifically, and how exactly you're going to do that. Okay. You can also, this is another tips. You can do a comparison between Indonesia's case, if you are Indonesia, assuming that there are people outside Indonesia watching these sessions as well. Can be about your country with other countries, right? So maybe if you can actually make a comparison, the similarities or even like differences between Indonesia to the United States, that's going to be even more interesting because the reader will be someone from the United States, right? And they will learn something new about our country, but only if possible. If not, you can use whatever comparison that you have or you want, maybe like for to comparison to like neighboring countries or something like that. Okay. At this point, remember the goal is to wow the reader in the introduction paragraph and make them keep reading the next paragraphs. That's why the introduction paragraph is really interesting. Also, it makes the last sentence of your first paragraph very important because this is like the turning point for the readers to, like, if you close the introduction paragraph to something that is really interesting, that's the kind of like the turning point for them. Do I want to keep reading it because it's so much interesting, or it's so boring, I don't have the time, I'm just going to move on to the other applicants, the other application, right? So it makes the last sentence of your first paragraph very important. And I want to stop here. I'm not done, basically, but I just want to tell you that at this point, and I've been talking for like almost an hour, we actually have not gone to the body paragraphs. Do you see what I'm saying here? Like how important, not just the essay itself, but how important the introduction paragraph is. My point of doing this is because once you can make a really strong introduction paragraph, a really, really strong introduction paragraph, it's going to be very easy to write like the body paragraphs and the conclusion, right? And then from here on, from my next few slides, I'm going to go kind of like real quick, boom, 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 because at least by this stage, you already understand what you're going to write in the introduction paragraph, okay? So my next slide, I believe this is kind of like wrapping up what I have said, I think. Yeah, some of them. So first one, do not write a narrative story out of your CV. I said that earlier, right? Like in the beginning, we do not want to start an essay like out of your CV. Like in the CV, what do you have there? Your name, the universities that you graduate from, or the high school that you graduate from, the full information about like where did you work and all that stuff. We don't want that. We don't want any of that in your essay, right? Create a theme or topic of what it is that you want to talk about in your essay. We have that, right? I told you about this. There is already a selling point in the fact that we are from Indonesia. I somewhat talk about it because Indonesia, we are still not a country where there are actually a lot of students in the US, and that's basically why Education USA here, and that's why basically I'm also here, and I'm loving my job in Education USA because I want to see more and more and more Indonesians to be able to study in the US, right? So there's already a selling point in the fact that we are from Indonesia because there's so many interesting stories to tell in the essay. We want to create a story, not an academic paper. And all paragraphs have to be connected. I know I have not talked about the body paragraphs. I'm still stuck with you on the introduction paragraph. But after you're done with the introduction paragraph, you're going to move on to the body paragraphs and the next paragraph and the next paragraph until we have the conclusion paragraphs, and they have to be connected. That's why creating a theme is really important, okay? We don't want to write something too general. We don't want to write something that is cliche, like I want to help the economy of Indonesia, but we want to kind of like explain to them, look, I want to help the economy of Indonesia because of this, and this is exactly how I'm going to do it, right? So you want to provide data, you want to provide facts, and all those interesting things, right? And you have to be an expert in that topic. So if you're talking about Indonesia, you want to show them that I know my country like in the back of my hand, right? So you want to be an expert in that topic. Demonstrate the passion for the chosen topic. Well, this is like a very obvious, right? Because you don't want to try too hard. You don't want to try to sound like it's not you, but you're just trying so hard to make like a good essay. We don't want that because that's going to make your life miserable because you don't know what you're talking about. So you want to demonstrate the passion. And trust me, when you do that, yes, it's hard writing an essay, but again, that's what we are here for. And then I guarantee you that it's going to be actually fun at the same time in writing one. know the strength and fit of the universities. I have not talked about it, but this is going to be in the body paragraphs. You also want to be able to demonstrate clear career goals. I think that's like obvious. And don't compare yours with others. You don't have to ask me like, can I see samples? Because it's unnecessary and there will be pressure. Just stay original by watching this session and come to see us, come to see Santika or myself. Okay. So questions to ask yourself when writing SOP. I'm going to kind of like go real quick here. Why do you want to do what you want to do? This is kind of like another like tips if you're kind of like, what to write. Remember when I told you that ask the big questions like why, who are you trying to help? What are you trying to help? This is like another tips. Maybe you can ask yourself, why do you want to do what you want to do? If you are really want to fix the environment on the law aspect, why? Why it has to be you? On like of all other people in Indonesia, why you? Right? So think about like a turning point or aha moment when you realize you wanted to pursue this path. Because then you can kind of like put it in the personal approach type of introduction paragraph, right? But if not, then just dive into the problem, right? Because maybe you can say that because the situation is very concerning and it's not kind of like going together with what the current administration is, wants to have in the next few years or whatever, right? And and you just want to fix that, right? You can't just sit around, right? So, and then another thing is what is, if any, the issue that you would like to address? You already know that, and it doesn't have to be always an issue. It can also be like idea or like innovation, right? Any relevant research or internship or work prior to your proposed study. And I know you'll be like, wait, Fina, I thought you said that no, you're not putting anything out of CV. Yeah, I did say that. However, if you have any relevant research, so for example, like you have like a thesis um, when you were in undergrad, and then that thesis is actually something that is an ongoing problem, and you want to kind of like continue working on that, it's okay to mention it because sometimes the university will ask you at some point, like if you can mention some relevant experience. Not all universities, but some of them do. Okay. And then in the body paragraphs, you also want to kind of like explain how do the program or the major and the university that you choose over another, maybe like in other countries or maybe like in other universities in the US, helps you address the issue. This is actually really important because you have to really do research about the university, making sure that those story that you have in the introduction paragraph and body paragraphs, when you kind of like go more in depth talking about the problem, you have to be able to connect that with the major that you want to do in that specific university. If you are not able to do that, if you are not able to connect it, it will defeat the whole thing. It will defeat the whole thing. All right. I didn't say that in the beginning because I don't want to overwhelm you because the introduction paragraph is already like overwhelming, but I'm telling you now. Okay. You want to start thinking about exactly how the university will able to help you achieve your goal. Okay. And also think on why should they select you over another candidate. And this is like when you really do a lot of convincing in the essay, right? When you kind of like able to connect the problem to the university, right? And then make you the person that very amazing because look, the problem is like so big because we're talking about like Indonesia as a country, and look, I'm the one who wants to fix that, and I'm the only one who wants to fix that, right? So and what goals or purpose would you like to achieve after the program? This is something that you can write it in the conclusion paragraph. Okay. Writing the body and conclusion paragraphs exactly like 1 hour after I, like talk about like introduction paragraph, why the essays is really important. Now we're actually going in the body and conclusion paragraph, but we are almost at the end here because I'm telling you guys, I want you to at least focus on the introduction paragraph first, and then we can, but then at the same time, you also want to think about like, is this the right universities or is this the right program for me or something like that, right? But what happened in the body paragraph, in the body and conclusion paragraphs, is that so, like how in the introduction paragraph I said earlier that we're giving a teaser, right? And then in the next paragraph after the introduction paragraph is when you kind of like go even deeper, explaining about the problem, right? And then this is like when you can compare to neighboring countries, like I said earlier. And then after that, in the next paragraph after that, you will be kind of like saying that. So look, okay, let me go back a little bit. So in the introduction paragraph is kind of like the teaser, right? Like this is what currently happened in Indonesia, and this is kind of like, however, blah, 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 blah. And then you kind of like the next paragraph, you're talking about more details, more numbers, data, facts, what have you. And then you're going, and this is why I need to study in your campus, because look, your university, you have this specific program. And then you mention it, right? Something that is like very niche to that university, right? So for example, I have like an advisee who wants to apply specifically to public policy at NYU, if I'm not mistaken, because he said the public policy at NYU really focused on like minority type of like community, right? And that's something that he wants to fix on back when he's in Indonesia, right? He wants to kind of like fix the minority problem here, especially on women. So that's like what he put in the essay, right? He didn't put it in the beginning, but then we were brainstorming together, right? And then to the point where, why did you choose NYU? And then he said that, and then I said, well, why don't we put it in the essay? And then he said, oh, okay, I didn't know that. So that's like usually what happened when we do kind of like brainstorm it together, right? And another thing is like you can also mention specific courses, one or two courses that you believe that is really, really strong and really relatable to the problem that you want to fix, or whatever, like the idea, the innovation that you want to start on, right? And then you mentioned that course. You can even go further by mentioning professors, right? Like I have like a number of advisees where I ask, why do you choose these specific universities? And then they said, oh, because like I met these professors when they did a research in Indonesia. And I said, oh, whoa, that's amazing. Put it in the essay. Put it in the essay, mention that professor, especially if that professor is still teaching, because that's going to make your essays really deep, so that the university is not just like simply see you want to study in their campus just because they're ranking or whatever, but because, oh, wow, I don't even know that one of our faculty members actually did a research in this applicant's country. How amazing is that, right? So we want to avoid putting like statements like, I choose these universities because it's ranked number 1 in the US or in the world. That's so cliche. Everyone at the admissions committee know that. It's not like new, but if you give this kind of like new information, like mentioning courses. I know courses, like they know about all these courses, but you also explain not just the courses, but how that courses will actually help you getting to where you want to be, or what you want to do. So is it hard? Is it actually really hard? Usually, like we stuck for a couple of times, for a couple of sessions with my advisees in this, because I'm very particular asking the advisees that you're not just like mentioning the course and explaining what the course is about, but you're mentioning the course, but then you also explain how that specific course is actually going to help you reach whatever it is that you want to achieve. Is it hard? Yeah, definitely. So that's why you have to do a lot of research about that specific program, right? So if you have like 4 different universities that you want to apply to in the US, you want to really read more about that programs, that department, okay? Be well acquainted with the program at schools being considered. So you really do want to read about it, what makes this specific universities different and just very niche, other compared to other universities. Know the strength and fit of the institution. Demonstrate clear career goals. I think I mentioned this for a couple of times now. What are they for you and for Indonesia? Why do you have to go all the way to the US to reach this goal, right? Refer to specific aspects of the program that matches your interests. What attracts you to the program? And this is, like when you know, so for example, like that one advisee, right? Or a couple of advisees actually that say, oh yeah, I actually want to apply this because of the professors, because they're doing this research, or they're publishing this book, or what have you, right? So is it what attracts you? Then you put it in the essay, right? Conclusion at the end, like the last paragraph, right? It's kind of like hard, because that's kind of like wrapping up what you have in the previous paragraphs without you sound like you're repeating the words. And it's really funny, because like when someone asked me exactly how to do it, I said, I don't know, but it is what conclusion is about. But then I have like some other ideas. If you can't really do write one, how about like just talk about like what's next? Like the first few steps or the first few things that you are going to do when you're done with the program, right? And so what? Yeah. So what's next after the program? And you can be very ambitious, and you don't have to be afraid about, because when I told my advisees this, they're saying, yeah, well, I mean, I want to work alongside the government at the end, but I mean, I have not reached out to them, and I don't know if that's going to work. And I said, that's okay. This is like when I said, just be ambitious. If at the end of the day, in the future, that's not going to happen, that's fine. But then I don't want you to lie as well. I want you to think of like, what is it that you really want to do after you're done with this program, right? But yeah, no. So yeah, number 12 is basically, kind of like wrapping up what you have said, but then without you repeating it, or like the fancy word here is I don't even know how to say it, regurgitate or something. But yeah, if you can do it, do that. If not, then don't worry. There are many other things that we can write the conclusion on. All right. So what makes your SOP great? I have 10 minutes before we do the Q&A, so I'll be going really, really quick here. It has to be clear. Don't assume that your reader understands everything, especially the situation in Indonesia. You already know that. It has to be concise, so you want to use words economically, especially if the universities only require you to write like 500 words. I know some people like in the beginning will be, yay, it's only 500, it's supposed to be easy, right? But then now that you are in the moment of like writing and you have like so many stories to tell, you'll be like, oh no, writing 500 is actually really, really tough. It has to be well written. Well, of course, it has to be organized, meaning that you have to make sure that you answer all questions asked, be in one topic, not going anywhere, and all paragraphs have to connect. Exactly what I actually just read it. It has to connect from one paragraph to another, or relevant from one paragraph to another. It has to it has to set you apart from other applicants. You have to speak to your audience, which is the admissions committee, and you want to establish your voice, be the expert of that specific topic, and be honest. Okay. The do's: give yourself plenty of time to write it. So usually, like I asked this earlier before I start the presentation, but I forgot, I think. But I usually ask people to, like just shout out in the chat or in the Zoom chat if you are here for fall 2022, or if you are here for fall 2021. If you are here for fall 2021, most likely that your deadline will be coming up, or maybe not until March. That's okay. But if your deadline, let's say like in December or like maybe in January, and you actually have not started writing your essay, you are in so much trouble. But don't worry, that's what we are here for again. But if you are here for like fall 2022, or like sometime, like whenever, like in 2022, great. You're actually save yourself a lot by watching this session, right? Be sure to answer all questions asked. I mentioned that a couple of times. Come up with a theme to maintain consistency and a good story. That's why we want to stick with topic. Begin with an attention-grabbing lead or introduction paragraph. You know this by now. Articulate a clear, realistic purpose. Use concrete examples of life if you have like unusual experience, or academic or professional experience to distinguish yourself. There are so many things you can do that. We want to ignore negatives and focus on your strength. Oftentimes, you will want to kind of like talk about like the government, how they are not able to do this and that, but we don't want to sound like negative as well. We want to actually help them at the end, right? And then you want to form that conclusion that I just shared with you. The don'ts: grammatical errors. I have not mentioned any of this word during my presentation, right? But the don'ts: number one, grammatical errors. We do not want to have grammatical errors, right? But is it the only one? Absolutely not. But this is like the surprise of like the surprise of the night, right? You want to get an English native speaker to check on the grammar, because guess what? Santika and I, we are not helping you with the grammar. We help you with the structure, but not the grammar. And the reason is because both of us, we are not native English speakers. We are fully Indonesian through and through. My English is not perfect, right? So I'm steer clear from checking on grammar, and it has to be by an English native. And if you can, please find an American. It's just that, why? It's just because I found it, they have like different ways and interesting way to express or using words compared to English native speakers from other countries. So if you can, please find an American that can help you on that. Okay. And I told you that's not the only don't. But on top of the grammatical errors, you also do not want to write an autobiography or resume approach. You already know this by now. No contraction, please. So just to make the essay neat. So no they, could, and should have, but you want to spell that out. They have, could, not, should have. Listing experiences and achievements. Only if it's relevant, like I told you earlier. And if you list it, you want to explain it, not just you showing that off, right? And we don't want to say something cliches as well, like I have always wanted to be, or I have always wanted to make Indonesia a better place, or something like that. But you want to kind of like elaborate. References to experience or accomplishments before college, like in high school, we don't want to put anything like in your resume or in your essay, unless you are here for a bachelor's degree and you're still in high school, then of course, obviously. And we don't want to, and we want to avoid like controversial or highly unconventional topics like religion and politics, unless that's exactly what you want to study. Okay. We're almost at the end here. Writer's block. Do you guys know what writer's block is? So writer's block is if you're a writer and you're about to write like a whatever, like a book, a novel, or what have you, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to spend for the next 2 hours writing, and then you're sitting down and then you're just like blank, like you just don't know what to write. So that's like what writer's block is, and it's very common. Can you have writer's block? Absolutely, especially no, not especially, only if your deadline is still so far away. But if your deadline is like next month, or like for the next 2 months, or even for the next 3 months, forget about having writer's block. You don't have that luxury. But I'm giving you some tips here if you have like writer's block. Basically, writing essays is really hard because you have to write it in English, right? And then English, for some of us, if not all of us, it's not like our native language, not our mother tongue. So what you can do is actually just start writing down your thoughts and worry about how it sounds later, and you do that in Bahasa. But then I remember when I put this up, without saying my next sentence, people actually just started to come to me bringing their draft in Bahasa. And I said, no, that's not what I mean. You do that, start it in Bahasa, but then when you are ready to bring it to me or Santika, please make it in English first, because our mind is already like set up in reading like essays in English, and it's just completely like messed the whole things up if I have to read it in Bahasa. Okay. Write as long as possible. Write as long as possible and worry about the words limit, because that's oftentimes like what makes the story is not interesting, because you're thinking too much about, oh, I can only write like in 500 words or like 750. I don't have like the space. Don't worry about it. Again, that's like when we are guiding you on that. It's much better when you can actually write as many as you want, and then we can worry about like, cutting it down later. Okay. Ask others who know you well to help you brainstorm. Although maybe this is not always the case here in Indonesia, because we have like this culture when you're afraid of making that the other person feel bad, right? So maybe like when you share it with your best friend, and then your best friend is actually when reading your draft, maybe that person, your best friend, is actually not understanding what you're saying in it. But then because that best friend wants to, like don't want to make you feel bad, they said, oh, this is actually really good. Well, it's actually not. So if that's being the case, don't worry. And if you're not like sure, if whoever like the closest to you not going to give you like an honest review, do the opposite. Ask strangers for an honest opinion. And the good news is, well, technically I'm going to be your strangers, right? But not only I'm going to be your strangers, but I'm going to be the stranger that's going to help you. So that's like a win-win situation there. And then another thing is something that I started to forget telling my advisees, but this happened quite often when we were in America, is that to record yourself speaking when we have the session, right? Have your phone ready and just record it, because I'm going to ask you a lot of questions and you're going to share a lot of new information to me, and without you realizing it, you're actually giving some ideas for your essay. Okay. In summary, I think this is like my last slide. Start early, at least 2 years before the program starts. I know like 2 years, people like, what, 2 years? But yeah, no, 2 years, because the deadline itself is like a year before. And then, of course, from the deadline, you want to take another 1 year or maybe like 6 months to 1 year to prepare for your essay, because, again, it's actually not easy to write an essay, right? Um, Another thing is do not write about your biography. You already know that by now. You're going to be the expert of this, but you talk about your vision, your professional goals, and what you would like to achieve in the next 3 to 5 years of what is going to be my theme and topic here. What am I trying to help, or who am I trying to help? What is my goal in the future that requires me to study all the way in the US? Why it has to be the US, right? And then last but not least is write, rewrite, and rewrite your essay. A lot of my advisees, current advisees, they are all in a stressful mode because I keep telling them, not good enough, another session, not good enough, another session, it's getting there, but not good enough, and another session, it's getting there, but still, I want you to talk about it. But we will end up with a really strong essay. I'm not trying to make your life miserable, but when you come to me or when you come to Santika, we have our own standard on what makes an essay is really, really good and strong. Okay? Last, okay, sorry, this is my last slide, I believe. Yes. Education as America advisors, Santika and I, basically, are ready to review and give feedback of your essays. I would say this is like the most demanding request or service that a lot of us come to us for. But then again, we assist you on the structure of the essay. We're not checking on your grammar. We do not, actually have not mentioned this, we do not review scholarship essays or some exchange program or something like that, or essays still in Bahasa. So we only review essays for the US universities. My schedules for essays, well, technically I'm available every day from 5 until 9, where Santika actually takes the earlier shift from 1 until 5. But I have like my preference days when it comes to essays. So if you want me to take a look at your essay, you can send the draft to my email here. I leave it here, and then Santika will help you also like type the email again on chat, and also Santika's email, and then I can tell you my preference days on that. Oh, and another thing is we don't do offline review. Can I do that? I can. Do I want to do that? I don't want to do it. I don't want to do just like like reading your essay without you being present. So we want you to be there as well. Okay. Only on some cases, the cases where you've already like gone back and forth to me for a couple of times, and we are almost at the end. Like almost you almost have like a really good essays, and then I can like read it offline. But for the first time, we don't do offline review. Okay, that's it. So questions. I'm going to check with Santika here. How are you doing, Santika?
Hi, Fina. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for your elaborated. That's underrated if I say elaborated. That's very, very complete. Kind of like, how to write a statement of purpose and personal essay. And I have one of my advisee or two advisees here because one of them is because I invited her and she just came in yesterday for her essay. And I thought she came before to this specific essay, watching you for your presentation. And after I read her essay, I find that her essay could be much better. So I figured, why not come again and watch you again and this presentation and have a Q&A if something pops up into her mind. And it goes the same way for all participants here. Wherever you're watching, if you have questions, please send us your question in the comment box if you're not in Zoom. If you're in Zoom, use the chat box. We are here, Fina is here, and I'm there. I've been replying to a few questions by now. Some of them are not related to essay per se, but very interesting to see that they have other questions on, application as well, like GMAT, GRE, and other things. But yeah, essay I think is one of the most, how do I say it, yang paling bisa di-upgrade among all of your, documents that you want to submit to the university. Because it's how you put yourself to them, and it's very apa ya, namanya juga personal essay, so it is very personal. Nobody will be able to say, oh, you write something wrong, this is not right, because it's not a place where people can judge you it's wrong or right, as long as you are writing from a perspective of your expertise and your experience, not that you state a fact that is totally, we know that it's not a fact, and that's that. So yeah, Fina, we have a few questions, but before that, I want you to take a little break because you have been talking for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's
I'm just gonna
crazy.
check. I'm just gonna check like in the chat, which is always
Yeah,
exciting to read some of the questions.
it is. It is. So we have recurring participants as usual. We have a lot of our advices and participants who came more than how many times, Vina, for this our monthly events? Like a few times, just because they want to write better essays, and then come to Fina before coming to Fina or me with their draft. They come to this event for a few times, so that when they write, they're like auto mode on. Okay, don't write this. Fina said, don't write this. So yeah, we have a question from our recurring participants. One of them is Ian Bastian. In Zoom, he said, "Hi Fina, do you think grammatical error will totally detrimental to an essay for U.S. universities?" I actually replied to him in the chat box saying that it really depends on how many grammatical errors that we are looking at. If it's like too many, way too many, it's disturbing the readers to understand what you want to say, and it's disturbing the person to read the whole essay. Then I would say that's going to affect your application in overall. But I think one or two, or a few is very acceptable because we are not native speaker per se. So yeah, what do you have to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the more you have like grammatical errors, the more like it will defeat the whole thing. And the grammatical errors and the structures are actually going hand in hand. So you may have like the perfect grammar, but then if you don't have like the perfect structure, it will defeat the whole thing. Right. So vice versa, if you have like the best structures, but then the admissions committee keep reading like one grammatical mistakes to another, they will be like, are you are you serious writing this essay, something like that. Because, well, obviously, because we are applying to universities or countries where English is the first language. I know it's hard, but then that's what I said earlier, like just do your best first. At least this, for me, like the structures really plays a huge role, and then we can like ask again like American native to just check on the grammar.
Right. But when I also said this to Yan, that if your grammatical errors is like way too much, it will kind of reflect that you kind of not ready in your English proficiency field and your writing, writing in English and your English ability for like how you will do your speaking and everything, because it will just reflect on your writing. And so maybe that will also make them think like, is this person have what it takes to study here? That's why I want all of you to apa ya, make sure that you take English proficiency really seriously. So when you write your essay, if you feel like I cannot write essay in English, that's when you need to learn more English first, and then maybe just start writing essays. Not like writing it in the whole Bahasa Indonesia and then find a translator to translate that, because that's not how it works. Okay. All right. So I hope that answers your question, Yan. And then I'm going to the next question. We don't really have a lot of questions today, Fina, on essay. I'm guessing because your presentation is so.
I know, Sandika. Like when I gave this presentation in America, like I always, okay, so I'm done with my presentation, and then I'll be like, okay, any questions? And then no one asked me questions, and I'll be like, oh, so my presentation is that good? I'm happy. Exactly. And then people started to ask questions, but always like great questions. So yeah.
So yeah, and another fun fact that I want everyone to know here, just in case you are curious or interested to come to Fina or me for essay review or input session. Everything's one-on-one, so you don't have to be scared like, oh, if I come in for an essay review, there will be other advices as well like this event. No, that it will be just Fina or me and you. And usually it will take about an hour or so, depending on your essay. But most of the time, for me, it will be an hour because then I take some time to read and then make comments and everything. But I've seen Fina have short sessions as well for essays, so it really depends on the number of revision you have done with us. I
Yeah,
love
so at this point, I don't
it.
know, Santika, if you shared with everyone in the chat, but these are actually our busiest month.
Yes.
The good news is that because there are so many deadlines in the end of this November and December all the way until like January, we've seen like a lot of recurring advices. Where in my case, some of them, if not all of them, are almost done with the essay. So yeah, I agree with you, Santika. Like if it's like the first time essay session, it can take up to like an hour. But like what I currently have with my advices, it was like just sometimes it's just like 5 minutes because like I just read it real quick because I already remember the story, and then I said, oh, this is like a really amazing, good to go. You just need someone to check on the grammar, and then done. And then we have like someone else coming in, and then oh, maybe just a little bit of revision here and there, but mostly just like 15-20 minutes. So but then I actually also have to turn down a number of people because like I said, like our shift is limited, right? Like I'm only available from 5 to 9, especially like I have my preference days on essay review. And then so sometimes I tell people to, hey, sorry, you can't have a session tonight, but feel free to come back here. Like this week I'll be available from these days. So
Yeah. And another thing about not only for the essay review, but for the advising session as well in Zoom, even though we say that we are available every day, but both of us, let's say right now, we are both here for the event. So there will be nobody for the Zoom meeting room that we mentioned for the advising. And that's why if you email to us asking for a one-on-one, advising session, we will reply you with the link, the meeting room ID, and then telling you this is where you check our events so that nobody will be there. Fina and I will be in the event. And Fina have her preferred dates, and I have my preferred time. That's how I would like to say it. So I kind of Fina don't schedule like oh, okay, advise the A or B this time and that time. But she just tell you like, okay, I'm not available on this day and that day for an essay review, and then the rest of the day just come between my hours, which is 5 until 9, right, Fina? But for me, it's like, okay, I receive your essay, and then okay, I will be available in this day and between my time. So what day and time you would love to come in? So I go as detailed as that because I don't feel comfortable for people kind of like waiting in line. So I try my best not to have someone in line because then I'm kind of like anxious to reading the essay and then wait, somebody's waiting for me, so I cannot do that. It's not.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting because I actually learned something new from you. Like if you don't feel like you feel bad for making people wait, I got used to that. I have like I have like advisees like waiting for me for like an hour.
And you know what happened, Pina, when because my time is 1 until 5, right? So I usually said to everyone that come between 1 and 4 because then if you come in at 4, you'll finish probably at 5 if we are doing on time. But if not, you know what happens at 5 p.m. because you said to everyone 5 until 9 is my hours. This is what Fina says, and everyone, 4:55, bim 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 bim, everybody's coming, and I'm like, who are these people? Oh, they are waiting for Fina. Who first come first serve, right? That's
it's a first come first serve. Yeah.
And it's the same. If for me as well, even if I say I kind of schedule it, first come first serve in my term comes means if you email me first on your essay and you email me first with your essay and everything, then I'll reply to you first. I will give the schedule or the availability for you to choose first. And that just makes sense. If the next email come in, then I'll just reply to the next email. So that's how the first come first serve actually work, right? And yeah, I do have like anxiety if someone is waiting online. I mean, I can see the name there popping in, and then I'm talking. I'm like, pressure. Cannot do that. So that's why, guys. Not because I love scheduling, because it takes a lot more email back and forth. If you're my advisee, you will know. Sapwika here is recurring. We are doing essay, and let's see. I also saw my other advisee tadi di sini. Christy here, terus ada siapa lagi? Lumayan banyak. So yeah, if
Yeah,
you're that
actually, my advisee who just recently came the other day, Abdul Muin Banyal from
nice.
DPBIT, wants to study physics, in
Nice.
Texas A&M, and I told him to, because unfortunately the essay have to be like in a big revision, and so I told him to watch this session and then ask the other LPDPBIT worthy friends to watch this session as well. So thank you
It's
for watching.
interesting. Yeah, I have 3 LPDP-BIT advisees. 2 of them got accepted.
Yay!
We got 1 new LPDP-BIT advisee yesterday too. Wow, we are getting more BIT. We are happy because I think online makes it possible to have advisees from out of.
Absolutely, I'm loving this. You know, despite of the current situation, but I'm loving this.
Yeah. And I do have one question for you, Vina. I'm saving it because then we have kind of like 15 minutes.
Right.
From Iren Nusifera, also our recurring participant. Hi Kak Santika and Vina. This year, our PDP also asked a personal statement for requirement. Can we write the same introduction paragraph or the hook for both of the LPDP and university's personal statement? What do you think?
So there are actually a lot of people come to us and come to me and ask me if I can actually read their LPDP essay. And I said no, because I'm not like particularly sure what they're looking for. However, it actually happened the other way around. So I actually have people where they actually use their US essay for LPDP essay. So the case here is you're aiming to get the LOA first, or maybe you are aiming to, like apply to the US universities first, and then you apply for the LPDP, or maybe you're doing it at the same time. But yeah, I mean, I cannot read your LPDP essay, but what happens in the past with my advisees is that they actually use the US essay for LPDP, which, I mean, you can do that. However, I want to touch upon this thing. Maybe you're thinking like, oh, because EducationUSA offer the service on reading essay, so that means I can actually use this draft to other countries, because I'm not like applying to US university. I'm also applying to London, to Germany. Well, we are not recommend that, because if you are here in the beginning, I told you guys, right, that the other countries' essay, they are not looking for this masterpiece type of essay. I'm not like saying that the type of essays that they're asking is not important, but the way I look at it, it is not important for them, because it's just kind of like they're asking it just so that you're writing something. But I think the other countries outside the US, the one thing that they really look at is more like your academic achievement. And if you kind of like use the US essay for other countries, I mean, I don't know what's gonna do, what is it gonna be, but they actually may kind of like, what is this? Because they are not really care to the point like where they don't really care about like what is it that you want to do. Yeah. This is like what makes the US really different, because they actually want to know what you want to do. Yeah, what do you want to do. So
yeah, what I shared with my advisee recently is also that the name itself, it says letter, so it means that they're expecting somehow, the template to be a letter. It means you are kind of like talking to them instead of like telling who you are. It's a bit different in the sense of the template. So if you use the US one, we will not be sure like if this is what they're looking for. That's one. Two,
Yeah.
if you apply to US and then European countries, then you may want to trouble yourself with making different template or style of essays, which will makes you kayak konsentrasinya kebelah juga. So, but then
Yeah.
if you find their program also fits you best, then we have no say in that. Like it's totally up to the advisees. It's your best interest. But we do recommend everyone yang apalagi kalau yang apply-nya kayak LPDP, because you only have three options, right? You don't want to
Mhm.
make yourself defocused by choosing different countries in each of the option, and then later on panicking on, okay, this is a different term. Is this the same thing or different thing? I had an advisee Vina coming in asking me, apa ya dia nanyanya? I'm
Mm.
applying to I forgot which country, and then it asked for this essay. Can I write? Can I use this essay that we just reviewed? And I'm like, I'm not sure because you have to. I'm not an expert in for that country, so you may want to ask the country or like the university representative or the admission office if it's for other countries instead of us, because then we are not we are not like know what kind of things that they're looking for. And it's the same for scholarship like LPDP or Fulbright. But we got Fulbright questions just now in the chat box,
Mm.
and I tell them that we can do mock interviews
Mm.
for Fulbright and LPDP, right? So that's what we can do for you if you're applying for scholarship and you're being called for the interview. We can do the mock interview. Of course, it will not be the same caliber as the real interview because it's only Fina and me. And if you met us a few times,
And
udah
please
nggak gitu.
bring some of the questions as well for us to read. And
Like
yeah,
your essay,
can definitely
Fina, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So aside from essay review or giving you input for your personal essay or statement of purpose, we can also do CV or resume. But that's mostly me, and essays mostly Fina because she loves essays, guys. So that's that.
I know I'm giving a presentation about essay and about CV and resume on a monthly basis, but actually, to be completely honest with you, it's not like my favorite thing to review. I actually even have like one advisee the other day coming in, and then she wants me to take a look at very detailed about her CV, and then I said, I'm sorry, but can you go to Santika?
Yeah,
But
please.
essay, I love
love
essay.
it.
Santika loves essay as well. Now I feel bad because I feel like Santika will have like more work, but for me, essay is my favorite.
No, I don't have more work in the sense because if I know that more people actually come to you for essays, and then when they come to you for a resume or CV, it makes sense that you pass them to me because I have less essays. It's not like I don't do essays or Fina don't do CV or resume, but it's just kind of like preference. Because when I look at CV or resume, I find so many details, and I love to see if they are all consistent, and that's just me. So that's why maybe I fit better to look at CV or resume. But other than that, we don't have kind of like very big say yes or no to certain documents that you want to ask to Fina or me. So that's that. I do essays, but I will take longer time than Fina because it's just I don't know. I take more time reading your essays and then making comments. Fina have seen my input and she's like, "Whoa, there's a lot of things here." And okay, we have questions from Yan, Fina. By the way, guys, would you be kind enough to get our Fulbright awardee for us to learn for, since it's closer to audition section? So we had
I answered
Fulbright before, yeah.
I answered Yan on my next. I said I don't. I mean, I do have like one advisee or two that is still in the process, but I have not heard back from them if they got accepted.
Right.
But so yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, Santika, but for me at this point, I don't know anyone who actually got accepted to Fulbright.
I do one, but I think what Yan means here is kind of like gathering. Not sure what he means here.
Like an
gathering
event?
kayak grup WhatsApp buat
Oh,
yang udah keterima sama yang mau daftar, atau like connecting, or kind of like mentorship or something, because I
that
think full
session.
too.
Maybe are you you're talking about like an event like this?
Yeah,
Well,
something like this. Well, we can
well, we were
before,
planning.
or
We were
two or
planning to have
three.
one. We were
Yeah,
planning to have one this month, right, Santika? But
yeah,
unfortunately,
cannot
uh,
make it.
yeah, we couldn't make it because of conflict of schedule. And then the slot for next month is also
Cool.
like a presentation on their experience. Yeah, I know what you mean. I usually have this kind of session. Um, we have what, like a couple of months ago, Santika, like when we just recently started going digital,
Writer.
invited two Fulbrighter, and one of them is actually an advisor for Education USA based in Surabaya. Um,
So we can share that to Jan.
mhm. And I did one that is really informative last year back in America. But yeah, for the current one, we unfortunately we don't have. Um, let's see. Hopefully next year. But
Yeah,
even like probably next year, we're not gonna have it before because the deadline is in like February,
February.
right? We usually have it like in mid late of the year because to prepare people who wants to like get to the February deadline. But
But yeah, I can totally share the link for you to rewatch those two sessions, the past Fulbright sessions. Jan, if you could email me, I'm gonna type my email in the chat box if you haven't got mine. EducationUSA.org. There you go. I think I've received your email before, so yeah, you can just email me and ask for that. I'll just give it to you. Um, Okay, so I think I have a question from Naufal Saladin.
mhm.
Will vocabularies be matter to be picked in writing an essay? So does this mean you choosing is the choice of your vocabulary matters, or if you use certain vocabularies, then your essay will be chosen? Um, to me, personally, I always say, because I read some essays before, Vina, yang kayak pakai vocabulary yang super,
Fancy word.
wow, super wow, and then rarely heard. Even if you talk in English every day, you rarely heard that word in English. Those are cool, but you need to be very sure you know how to use those words.
Yeah.
You don't want to write something with a word, English word, that anyone or everyone rarely heard of, but you use it wrongly. That means you don't have the capability yet to use that kind of vocabulary. So tips aku adalah jangan dipaksa. Just write how you are comfortable in writing, that people will understand. That's the main point in the content. Yeah, that's for me. And then last one. Oh, Fina already answered it as well.
Mhm.
So I think we are through with all of the questions tonight. And we only have 3 minutes left. And thank you everyone so much for coming. And Fina as well for your presentation. And our next event is next month, right, Fina?
Yes, next month with the CV and another essay and then another kind of like layback type of essay where we're just gonna talk and answering some of your questions. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. And yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone who's watching this, especially those who have like who's here for a number of times. I really appreciate it. And it's really interesting because I asked them like, why would you do that? And then a lot of them, and they don't know each other, but then some of them who keep coming back said that yeah, because I keep learning something new, and it's actually and I think it's true because the slides itself is actually the same, but the way I present tonight was just sometimes like I felt like, oh, this idea just came out and then I just said it and then I didn't say that last time. So yeah, really
That's totally
appreciate.
right. I mean, sometimes we didn't mention certain things in certain sessions, and then it just pop up when we are talking like this and answering questions from audience. So the more you come to our events, I think the more you will know about US education, at least something new. Like today I learned, let's see. Today I learned that the one who read your essay is someone who is in that department. So yeah.
And yeah, and I think I said something new as well tonight. I didn't remember what, but yeah, something like a couple of things that I never said before. But yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys and everyone who is saying thank you for coming. And Pina and I will see you in our next event. And stay tuned. We are going to look forward to your advising one on one and your essays or your CV or resume if you want me to read it or proofread it. Okay. Okay. So Fina, you want to close it or I'm going to
Yes.
hand it.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much also, Santika, for helping me in the chat and everyone who's watching the session. I really look forward to seeing you in Zoom, either to Santika or myself. And I don't know if you said that, Santika, but just pick one of us. So don't do like both of us helping you, because again, we are so busy. We need to have like we assist so many advisees. So just pick one of us, either Santika or myself. Basically, we are doing the same thing, just like a matter of time. But okay, thank you guys, and I'll see you next time. And I'm gonna give you back to James.
Thank you so much, Vina and Santika, for today's session. I can see that a lot of people really find a lot of helpful information that you guys have imparted towards them. Well, earlier in the event, we asked our audience members a question. Which Ivy League was the last to be established? And the correct answer to that is option C, Cornell. Unfortunately, no one was able to get the correct answer on our social media, but thank you to everyone who has participated. Don't forget to tune in next time to get another chance for a shout out from us. Now, you may be wondering, how could I develop an awesome idea for a place like this? That's easy. All you need to do is go to our website at www.atamerica.or.id, select Create a Program, and click Collaborate with us. All event proposals coming to us will be reviewed, and your event might be featured here soon. You can also subscribe to our newsletter for all our weekly updates. That wraps this episode. It's been fun, but we have to say goodbye for now. Follow our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at ATAmerica for all our fun contents, event updates, and so much more. Thanks again for joining. My name is James, and see you next time at the next Ed America TV episode. Goodbye.